And thanks very much to those of you who have come along today. It's great to see some familiar carer positive faces, but also really nice to see some folk from organisations who we've not yet engaged with. These employer sessions are usually, you know, pretty informal, and they're a chance for, as much as anything, I'll be sort of saying a bit, but as much as anything, it's a chance for you as employers to actually hear some good practice from other employers and to share some experiences and raise any issues that you're maybe having some challenges with. I will say, unfortunately, that we've had a couple of call-offs from speakers, so we're going to try and kind of wing it to a degree in terms of some of the kind of content, but I think it's still going to be good to get some discussion going between everyone. So what I'll do just now is share my screen. I've got a presentation and we've got some speakers and yep. Sorry, did someone say something there? No? Okay. I'll share my screen. I've got the presentation here. I'll put it onto slideshow so that it's easier to see as we go along, and I just need to wait. This is always the bit I find quite difficult because my eyesight's so bad, is finding the that's it, the arrow to move it along. So the reason that we hold Carers' Rights Day a couple of weeks before Carers' Rights Day, which is actually on the 23rd of November this year, is to try and sort of raise awareness of it and to give employers some time to think about maybe sort of raising awareness on the day, rather than us doing something on the day, which we will be anyway. We'll be tweeting and we'll be putting out some information, but it's quite good to actually do something in advance of it, because it gives you a chance to sort of think about what you might do to kind of raise some awareness within your organisations yourself. So I'll just cover a wee bit of Carers' Rights Day. I'll cover a little bit of just sort of generally caring and working in Scotland, but more specifically, I want to focus a wee bit more on the Carers Leave Act, which is going to be commencing next year. And we're going to hear some employer good practice from some of our employers who've got some really good carer support in place. We've got Louise MacDonald from the Edrington Group who's going to speak, and we did have NHS Education Scotland and the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Scotland office perhaps going to speak, but I'll be able to sort of say a wee bit about what they're doing in their absence. But we do have plenty of other really good carer positive employers here who'll hopefully chip in as well and be able to share some of the good work that they've developed over the years. We're also going to be hearing from Andrew Warburton at Vocal, that's Voices of Carers Across Lothian, and that's to really give you a flavour of how employers can signpost carers to some really, really invaluable support that they can get from their local carers centre. And there are carer centres all over Scotland, but Vocal are doing really, really good work, both supporting carers, but also supporting local employers by raising awareness and carrying out training sessions. So it'll be really good to hear from Andrew some of the support that Vocal can provide, and perhaps you know, you can get in touch with your own local carer centre. And I think we'll also break into some discussion groups just so that you get a chance, sort of slightly more informally, to have a chat in smaller groups, and then we'll come back and finish off. So Carers' Rights Day, the theme this year is today, tomorrow and in the future. Just recognising that it's important that carers are aware of their rights and able to access support. you know, every day of their life, not just for one day a year. Yes, we're raising awareness of this, and similarly with Carers Week. You know, that's a specific week in June, but it's important that carers are aware of their rights and they get the right support every day that they can, today, tomorrow, and in the future. It's on the 23rd of November this year, and it helps us let carers know where to get the help and support they need, and to raise awareness of their rights and more widely of the needs of carers. And it's really helpful for employers to be able to provide that information and support to carers as well. I think most people here have probably seen this slide, but it's just to remind us that there are estimated to be around 300,000 people in Scotland combining work with caring responsibilities. And every day, you know, every week, you know, hundreds of people become carers, and some obviously kind of drop out of caring, but it's a constantly moving picture. And we think it could equate to around 1 in 7 in the workplace, but that will vary depending on the makeup of every workforce, obviously. And sadly, without the right type of support in work, many carers do end up, you know, not being able to manage that job of juggling work and caring, and they give up work. And some of them cut their hours, which is, you know, that's not a bad thing if it's a choice, but it's not a good thing if it's not what they want to do. Obviously, it's not good for carers or their families, and it's not good for employers as well, especially as we know in these times that a lot of employers are really struggling with recruitment and retention, and losing those skills and, you know, the valuable experience that many carers who've maybe worked in an organisation for years have built up. So just talking a little bit about rights in work, and I'm sure everyone here, because, you know, most of you are from the kind of HR world and kind of understand this, or you know what the you know, the carers' rights in work are. There are existing statutory rights, which I'll not sort of go into in any detail. But there is a new right coming next year, and it's the Carers Leave Act, which I'm going to spend a little bit of time on, which is for the first time introducing 5 days unpaid carers leave, you know, for carers. Also, the Flexible Working Act is bringing changes to the right to request flexible working, and that means that carers have that right as a day one provision, and there are other changes to that, which means, you know, they don't need to provide the case for that. But we know that many employers have got contractual rights which enhance that support, and we know that there's lots of good practice around this already, which we'll hear about later. So just to remind you of the Carers Leave Act, the bill originated in June 2022, sponsored by Wendy Chamberlain MP, progressed through the Commons, and it achieved royal assent this year in May. But there are regulations and guidelines which we are still waiting to be published by Westminster. And all we can say at this stage is we're waiting on those. We think, from what we hear, they're going to be published this side of Christmas, and it might be really quite soon, but we're not really sure. But we know that they're coming soon, and they'll give a lot more detail to the carers leave provisions. And going by the kind of timeline of these things so far, we think the new law could come into force in spring in 2024, but there are so many kind of uncertainties as well that it might be a wee bit longer away than that. So what will this mean for carers and employers? It is a new sort of what they're calling a landmark new law, which covers employees in Scotland, England and Wales, and it introduces a new and flexible entitlement, and that's important, to 1 week's unpaid leave per year for employees who are providing or arranging care for a relative or a dependent. It will be available from the first day of their employment, so it's a day one right. You don't have to have been in continuous service for, you know, the 26 weeks. It allows employees to take the leave flexibly, so they can take, leave in blocks of a day or half days or 2 days or a week at a time. And it's for planned and foreseen caring commitments. It offers employment protections to employees to ensure that they will be protected from dismissal or detriment because of having taken this time off. So if there's any kind of discrimination because of somebody having taken carers leave, that's that's against the law. There's no requirement for an employee to evidence their entitlement to the leave, and employers will not be able to deny an employee's request for carers leave, but they can postpone it. So who can take it? Just going into this, and this is all from the Act, all from the kind of legal speak of the Act, and it lists that people are regarded as dependents of an employee if they are a spouse, civil partner, child, or parent, or if they live in the same household as the employee, other than being their boarder or lodger, or if it's somebody who reasonably relies on the employee to provide or arrange care. So that is quite wide-ranging. And it says that a dependent has a long-term care need if they have an illness or injury that requires or is likely to require care for more than 3 months, or if they have a disability under the Disability Act, or if they require care for a reason connected with their old age. And it's expected that because this leave is for, arranging planned leave, it's still expected that employees will be able to use other forms of leave, which might include the emergency dependence leave for shorter term needs if they need to, if something breaks down, or if something happens overnight, they can still use emergency dependence leave. The new carers leave isn't something that is instead of that, it's in addition to that. So it's more for kind of planned, for carers to plan leave. What we don't know yet is, and we're waiting for the guidance on the particular, and this is, it's kind of in quotes here because this is what it says in the legislation, particular activities are or are not to be treated as providing or arranging care. And there may be limitations and exceptions, possibly for terminal illness. We also don't know whether the entitlement to 1 week's leave covers all dependents an employee could have. Is it 1 week per dependent, or whether it is 1 week for every employee, regardless of whether they have more than one dependent. And we don't know anything about the notice requirements for taking carers leave. The consultation document suggests it could be twice the length of the time being requested plus 1 day. And other regulations and requirements may come to light. So it's slightly vague yet, but these are the kind of things that hopefully the guidelines will give firmer information on, and we'll be able to update you on that. But at this stage, we're urging all employers to begin to think about, how this would be implemented in your organisation. And many of you do already have carers leave, obviously, and, some go over and above the, the very minimum sort of statutory, what would be the statutory requirement in that case. But it is important to begin to raise awareness across all staff and managers that this is coming in. Because it's going to be important for employers to identify who the carers in their organisations are, and to understand, who are going to be liable to need this carers leave. But the other side of that is helping people recognise themselves as carers, and it's always been something we've spoken about, and it's part of the whole kind of carer positive journey. It's how you encourage and enable people to identify themselves. And that's helping them understand, what it means by being a carer, having a clear definition, having examples, using the right language, using case studies to illustrate, who carers are. And you might want to think about undertaking a staff survey in advance of that to, get a better idea of maybe the numbers of carers in your organisation if you don't already do that. Obviously, keep up to date on the regulations coming out and the date of commencement. And the date of commencement will be known as soon as the guidelines and regulations are announced. So very quickly, people will get a better idea of what this all means. Other practical considerations that employers can start thinking about, just to kind of keep ahead of the game. And that would be to just, take this opportunity to review and update, relevant workplace policies and support. And if you do have carers leave at the moment, or if you don't have carers leave at the moment, where would this sit? Would you create a new carers leave policy, or would it sit within special leave? Think about where this new provision is going to be reflected in workplace policies, and what might be the processes or the logistics for requesting it. There'll be some guidelines around that, but ultimately organisations themselves will need to think about, how do we ask employees to, ask for carers leave? Is it, do we have a self-certification form, or is it just via a request to line managers or HR? So these are things to think about. And you might want to think about how it would be recorded and tracked, and whether, there's a new system of record keeping, or is it just added to existing protocols? And again, I know that a lot of people already do this, but if you don't, it's maybe time to think about it. Obviously, it goes without saying that managers should be aware of this new right, before it does commence, and the fact that, anything, any kind of unfair treatment as a result of this would be automatically deemed as unfair. If that's a dismissal or any sort of detrimental treatment. So you might want to consider some line manager training to ensure that there's understanding, there's consistency across an organisation, and obviously awareness of potential sensitivities, because it can be difficult for managers to, sometimes be sure of the right things to ask and the right way to raise things, and just what the kind of some of the protocols are around some of the more sensitive issues of caring. And also, if you're able, you might want to think about whether it's possible to enhance the provision to paid leave, which obviously would be much more helpful to carers. And it would also be something that we think helps employers stay ahead of the game in terms of, being seen as a good employer and good for recruitment and retention. But obviously that depends on everybody's financial position and whether that's possible or not. So these are things that we think it's good to start thinking about just now. Sorry, I literally cannot find the cursor to move on, but here we go. There are some resources and guidelines that will be coming soon, so keep checking for updates, and we'll alert employers to anything that comes out as well. Carers Scotland and Carers UK are actually preparing sort of bespoke resources that will help employers, but until the guidelines come out, these are sort of waiting slightly in the wings. But again, we'll keep you up to date with those. There are some paid for resources that our partners in Carers UK are developing, but Carer Positive will also be, producing information and, providing seminars and keeping people up to date. I just want to very briefly, to those employers here who are not Carer Positive, just let you see something very briefly about it, that we are here as a resource really that helps employers develop the right kind of support for carers in their workforces. We want to help you in a number of areas around identification of carers, around policy, around workplace support, how you communicate and raise awareness, and whether you might want to sort of establish some peer support. We've got over 260 employers who are currently recognised as carer positive, and some of those a lot of those actually have built up some fantastic support. Some are still at the beginning of developing support, but being part of this initiative enables employers to, develop support at a pace that's right for their organisation. So do get in touch with us if you want to have a chat about applying to become carer positive. It is free. It's entirely funded by the government, and it's free to participate, and all the support and resources are free. But I'll stop plugging that because I think most of you know about that already. What I want to do now is ask Louise, and I'll speak a wee bit about the other good practice examples. And then at the end of that, I'm going to just sort of share some of our resources as well that might help you get better prepared for Carers Week. But if I can first of all ask Louise to speak, and I will come out of the slideshow just now. And I'll stop sharing. Before I do, ask Louise, I should ask everyone here, have you got any particular questions about the new legislation coming in? That's we can talk about this more in the discussion groups, but if there was anything sort of overarching that anyone wanted to comment on, please do. Nope. Okie dokie then. Okay, Louise, would love to hear from you.
No problem. Thanks very much, Sue, and lovely to be with you all today. So my name's Louise McDonald. I lead Edrington's diversity, equity and inclusion strategy globally. I thought I might just tell everybody a little bit about Edrington because we're not a super known employer. So we're a privately owned international spirits business. We're head officed in Glasgow, right next door to Carers Scotland on Queen Street, but we operate internationally, so we have people in 30 countries globally. And we have 3,500 people, 70% of which are out with Scotland, so we have a large international footprint. And I suppose just some brands of the spirits that we make for those whiskey fans in the audience potentially. So we own the Macallan, the Famous Grouse, Glenrothes and Naked Malt, as well as a rum that's made and distributed out of the Dominican Republic. So really just want to tell you a little bit about our journey around supporting working carers in Edrington. So last financial year, we identified that we wanted to introduce a carers policy. So basically through 2022, I worked quite closely looking at best practice and really just kind of crafting the business case for Edrington to go ahead and launch that policy. And that was achieved at the end of January this year. So we have a global carers policy. So all of our employees are covered by it. And the principles that are covered in that policy include trying to demonstrate Edrington as an employer that supports working carers in our business, equipping our line managers to be understanding and supportive to those in their teams that may be balancing care with work responsibilities, being open to flexible working requests. And so you mentioned from a UK perspective, we updated earlier in the year our flexible working policy. So we have that as a day one right, and we do expressly say that, you know, if it is for care responsibilities, for people to let us know about that if they feel comfortable to do so. So we've tried to weave in kind of that carer supportive language into documents and policies out with the carers policy that we do have. It also does provide for 5 days of paid carers leave per year. And also opens up the conversation for if a carer in our business might need a period of unpaid leave as well. We try to signpost to resources and support that is in the business and also externally. So we have a employee assistance program that all our employees and their families have access to, which has quite a wealth of online resources as well as counselling and such like. And we also have an employee network that does cover off employees who have care responsibilities as well. So I was just doing a little bit of kind of looking at uptake of our carers leave, because I thought that might be quite interesting, and I haven't looked at it for a little while. So that policy has been in place now for 9 months. As I say, it's a global policy, and to date we've had 58 colleagues take that paid leave across 6 of our countries. So obviously today we're quite UK focused, but colleagues in the UK, US, Malaysia, Taiwan, Singapore and Sweden have taken that leave. And obviously the narrative around supporting working carers in different countries is very different. So obviously this is quite front and foremost for us in the UK with legislation coming into place, but in other countries where we operate, the concept of an employer supporting a working carer just doesn't quite have the same, there's not the same backdrop. So it's really great to see that uptake is kind of cross our global footprint in Asia, in the Americas, and obviously across Europe as well. So in total, those 58 employees have taken 133.5 paid carers leave days, and on average it's about 2.3 days per employee. And that's something that, you know, we'll continue to look and monitor, because really when we launched the policy it was very difficult to kind of cost out, because we had no idea obviously of, you know, anybody could be a working carer, and we just didn't know what the uptake was. So I would say it's probably less than we kind of anticipated, but obviously we're doing a lot to encourage more conversation, raise awareness of what a carer is, and trying to encourage people to leverage the policy and the leave. I would definitely like just to say that the policy, whilst the carers leave is in there, it is only a small part of that policy. The real crux of it is about having those really meaningful, supportive conversations with our employees. So in tandem with the policy itself, we actually developed a conversation guide, which covers lots of different things. So around, you know, and it's completely voluntary in terms of what people choose to disclose or not, but it's really just trying to give people the confidence to have a really good conversation about how this may impact them and the team, I suppose, that they sit within. So it covers off things like what the caring situation is right now and how that might manifest in the future. So kind of a bit future proofing. If employees have a kind of external facing role, you know, who can pick up things if they need to get, you know, to go and support the person that they're caring for at short notice, so that we have a kind of contingency planning. It also touches, I think, really importantly on their own health and well-being. So kind of, you know, what kind of things do they need to make sure that they're looking after themselves, because we know that carers often the last people they think about is themselves, isn't it? So and that was a real kind of, it was definitely something that I wanted to make sure this wasn't just about leave. It was more about that conversation and the leave being a tool to help to support those employees, because we know that 5 days paid leave is probably not going to be enough in terms of, you know, covering every care eventuality, but it's definitely been very well received from both our colleagues who are working carers, but also their line managers, because it feels like it's enabling them to do something quite practical. And we've had some, you know, wonderful testimonials and kind of colleagues kind of share their story with us, you know, and it's a breadth, and obviously, you know, you will all know the different types of caring circumstances there are, but, you know, we've had people take the leave for caring for a loved one at home, supporting siblings going to hospital for treatment, for chemotherapy, that type of thing, supporting parents moving into residential care, and we've also had employees take it for the time in which their loved ones are in palliative care, and that's been really, really valuable and really precious for those colleagues as well. So yeah, we're kind of continuing to monitor it, we're continuing to promote it. But generally, the initial feedback has been incredibly positive. And in actual fact, we did a panel discussion quite recently in the Americas and had a couple of people who are working carers in our business who have taken the leave share their story, because we had quite low uptake in the US, and we want to kind of bring to life what care situations and how diverse they were. And a colleague whose partner was diagnosed with a form of cancer, actually said that the support that they got from Edrington as a carer was more than what their partner got as the person going through the treatment. And it was incredibly marked, the difference. So, you know, and a lot of that was to do with line manager and just colleague support and just general sense of, you know, and actually the person found out that their partner had that diagnosis only a couple of days after joining Edrington, so they were a new start as well. So it's really good to hear those that type of feedback from our people. But it's definitely something that we're very proud of. I'm very proud of that we've managed to get that policy in place, and we're seeing it being taken up and utilised, and we'll continue to look to see how we can evolve and adapt it based on feedback going forward. But it's still very much early days, but as I say, that's the kind of process that we took, and obviously, Sue, we became carer positive employer. I was just looking there, it was back in May. So after that policy initially launched, we felt that that was the right time to take that next step. And then we'll look to continue to go through that programme as we build up the work that we do in this space. So that's just a little bit about what Edrington's done. I'm happy to take any questions or comments, or I'm happy obviously to add to the conversation and the smaller discussions as well.
Thanks so much, Louise. That was a great overview of the support. And just, you know, from working with other employers, just echoing that point that actually, yes, the leave is very important and flexibility is important. But I mean, I just hear repeatedly from carers over the years that just having that empathy and understanding and the ability to have a kind of conversation with their you know, with an employer or line manager is probably more important to a carer than just about anything. Just knowing that they work in a supportive environment. Has anyone got any kind of questions for Louise? We can continue that in the chat, but if anyone's got anything just now, please pop up your hand or feel free to chip in. I can run over a wee bit more about what NHS Education Scotland and the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Service are doing, because those were the other ones we were going to highlight today. But we've also got Peter Lawson here from NatWest, who I usually, Peter, I didn't ask you initially to be one of our speakers because I feel as if I ask you every single time, but I know that you've always got such good practice to share, both from a personal perspective as well as being able to speak from the organisation's point of view. So, I mean, if there's anything that you'd like to say at this stage, please do. Oh, you're on mute.
Probably not an awful lot to add over and above what Louise said. I mean, yeah, we've got a lot of the things in place already. I'm sure we are going to have to tweak our unpaid carers leave policy, because I think where we've got it set up is we've got it set up as 18 weeks that can be taken over the lifetime of employment. So I think we're probably going to have to do some rewording and tweaking, etc. We are talking to HR at the moment about the possibility of putting in some paid carers leave as well. But we've not got too far with that at the moment. But also we have policies such as dependence leave anyway, that are more generic, that probably cover people for about, generally speaking, I think the guidelines are 3 days a year is reasonable. So we've sort of got paid cover there anyway. Mm-hmm. And then, like Louise, we've got a tremendous amount of external support. So we've got an employee assistance program, and obviously we've got about 80,000 employees globally as well. So we have the same geographical differences that potentially Louise has at her organisation. So we've got an employee assistance program. We've also signed up to something called Work Life Central, which is basically online resources, which covers a multitude of subjects, caring being one of them, but a lot of parental stuff and lots of other things as well. We also have access to something called the Bank Workers Charity as well. So they do a lot of things, and they can do support for carers and counselling and all of those sorts of things as well. So we have those, and we do actually pay into the Carers UK employees for carers. So we've got their online resources as well. So we've got lots of things that we can draw on. We just have the same problems as everybody else, getting the line managers to be aware and getting people to identify themselves. So we just still suffer the same pain that everybody else does, and it's trying to work out how to get around those things.
Yep. Okay, thanks so much, Peter. That's great. What I'm going to briefly do now, oh, sorry, no, I do have a hand up here. Eve, sorry. Hello. So,
hi.
Thank you so much. Eve's from Phoenix Group, which is, again, one of our employers that we've worked with for ages and has had some great support in place. Eve, I'll pass over to you now.
Yeah, I was just going to echo exactly what Peter just said. Sometimes it's kind of getting the line manager level playing field, I suppose, and getting people to actually recognise and actually identify themselves as being a carer. So one of the things that we are doing this year for Carers Rights Day is actually doing a bit of what we call internally a Meet the Experts session. And it's with the network sponsor, and then a new support service that we've recently introduced that helps people source care for their loved ones. So I'm hoping that might generate just a little bit more thought and kind of soul searching, I suppose, from some people who are probably carers, but not actually saying that they are, because that is one of my things. I think our diversity data identified something like about 13% of people within Phoenix Group, and that's over 6,500 employees who were saying that they were carers. But within my carers network, I've probably got about 150 people. So I'm not great at maths, but I know that doesn't add up. So that is one of my biggest challenges, is how do I get into this other kind of group of people who are identifying as carers and give them the support that they potentially need, and help signpost them to the things that are available currently. And how do I tap into however percentage are also in that group that aren't identifying as carers, could do with the support and don't know where to find information if it's there already. So yeah, it's the usual challenges, I think, that we probably all experience.
Yeah, it certainly sounds similar to a lot of challenges that employers commonly cite. And I think, I mean, I guess all you can, you have to just kind of keep almost drip feeding what you can, but on a kind of constant level, I guess, not just, at Carers Rights Day or during Carers Week to raise awareness. I think it's looking at opportunities, right from the moment somebody joins the organisation, at recruitment, at induction, at staff meetings, just at any kind of opportunity to just remind people that the organisation, understands that there, maybe many people who are juggling work and care, and that you're there to support them. And to, the first thing that they can do is have that conversation with you, because without knowing who the carers are in your work spaces, you don't then know how to put that support in place. And one of the things that's been coming up a lot is just that, and it was mentioned also by Louise, is sharing carer stories. I think that's a great way of encouraging other people to, to actually recognise, oh, that situation's similar to mine. So case studies, stories, blogs, anything where people can relate to carer experiences is probably one of the best things you can do. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that's absolutely, and I'm currently working on our carers network plan for next year, and a lot of it is going to be about the intersectionality with other networks. We've got 11 networks within Phoenix Group, so you can imagine there's a lot of vying for attention, and one of my issues with some of the, as you say, the carers' days that happen throughout the year is they clash with things like Pride or International Women's Day or International Men's Day. So a no within that kind of spectrum within the business, carers is not going to get the prominence. So how can I then tap into that and actually raise it through that rather than try and fight it, if that makes any sense? So yeah, that's sort of my plan for this year as well, is to really work with some of the other networks and try and work across that intersectionality part of it too.
Because there will be carers in every one of those other networks.
Exactly.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah, we have exactly the same problem because we have about 10 or 11 networks. We have a disability network as well, and we work quite closely with them because obviously if there's anything to do with specific conditions, they're obviously sitting on the other side as it from us as the carers. So we do tend to do a lot with our disability network, and also there's quite good collaboration between the networks in the bank now, but there wasn't a year or so ago. So it's something that definitely needs to be worked at, and it is beneficial.
Geraldine, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, remember to unmute myself. No, one of the things we've done in my organisation, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, some years ago we created a carer peer support group, which is basically run by carers for themselves with facilitation and input from HR as appropriate. And I think that gives a very safe, secure forum for carers to get together, compare notes, just be there for each other, share experiences and so on. And occasionally we perhaps organise, say, for an external speaker to come in. For example, one of the topics a speaker came in to focus on was power of attorney, because quite often if you're a carer, especially in terms of the welfare side of things or the health side of things, you know, the NHS understandably won't really engage with you about someone else unless you've got a welfare power of attorney in place. But I think, you know, during COVID, the sort of meetings did tail off a little bit predictably, but we're now sort of trying to sort of get them going again. There's also a private, we used to call it Yammer, it's now called Viva Engage in our organisation. It's like a private sort of page within our intranet structure where people can actually share thoughts, comments and so on. And obviously we can publicise things from the HR perspective as well. So I think, you know, it's quite good for them to have the forum, and then they can obviously take points to us as the employer as well. So certainly a carer peer support group, I think we found has been quite a successful intervention. And I think that was introduced as part of our carer positive journey some years ago. And we're currently, just for information, we're at the middle established level, but very much hoping, aspiring to in due course get to the top level of exemplary. So I just thought I would put that into the mix anyway.
Yeah, thank you. And you're right, I think having peer support groups is also a really helpful way of, it's aside from being a support to carers, it's a really useful forum for employers to seek some input from as well. You know, if they are developing support or, you know, maybe wanting to launch something new, it's always good to get that input from carers, and you know, they can come up with things that often an employer wouldn't have necessarily thought about themselves. It might be something small that can make a big difference. So it's, you know, it's great to hear that group's still going strong, Geraldine.
Yes. And I think obviously they know what they need. It's not a case of us thinking we know what they need. That would be totally inappropriate. But I think we see ourselves working in partnership, and we do our utmost to encourage staff who are carers to come forward and self-identify. And the carer peer support group has got quite a high profile, it has to be said. And quite often we get requests in to join the private, as I call it, Viva Engage page, which in between meetings is an invaluable opportunity for folk to raise issues. Because if one carer has an issue, chances are someone else perhaps has had that experience and can compare notes or coping strategies, whatever the scenario is. So yep, it's invaluable, I think. So thank you.
It is, it's good. I suppose the one thing is, and you know, you're all from reasonably big organisations, but there are, you know, those of you who have spoken so far today, for smaller organisations, and we've got lots of carer positive organisations that are just small teams of maybe, you know, less than 10 or, you know, small to medium size, where it's maybe not feasible for them to actually have a kind of carers network or group. There's simply not enough of them. I would just sort of stress again, and we will be hearing from Vocal, it's always really, really useful for an employer, in the absence of workplace peer support, to signpost carers to their local carers centres. Because that's again where they'll get some support about things that aren't always work related, but let's face it, a lot of the pressures on carers are external anyway, rather than work related. Any other questions just now? Okay, I'm going to briefly share my screen again just to run over a few of the things that were going to be highlighted from the other two organisations, but I'm not going to say too much on their behalf, to be honest. It's just to give you a snapshot, and then I'm going to ask Andrew to speak so that you can hear a wee bit more about carer centres. So if you just bear with me for a second. Here we go again. Okay, so back to the slide. And slideshow, sorry, it's just taking a wee second to kick in. Okay, I think this is it now. Yeah. And it's gone right back to the beginning. 2 seconds, folks. Okay, so I'm not going to read this out, actually. It's far too long. This was just a statement from a carer in NHS Education Scotland that was really, nice to hear. They've got a whole range of support in place, including a parent and carers network again as well, which has quarterly meetings, and it's got a number of different ways that they communicate. They've got a discussion board to raise issues. They also have an open connect time session for drop-in, and that's at the same time every week, and that's just a sort of drop-in opportunity for carers if they're around and need that additional support to kind of pop in and have a chat with some other carers. They hold events throughout the year as well to raise awareness, and also they've developed some video learning resources, some e-learning resources for carers and for managers to raise awareness of carers as part of what they call the EPIC resources, which some of you here may be familiar with. But rather than read out this whole quote, just a few things here that just shows the importance that the support from NES has made. This carer talks about having been given the most amazing support as a parent of a young person who has autism, from flexibility, extended breaks, and support for unplanned absence. And that has become more kind of vital over the years. She's been given care and compassion from her manager and team members, which allows her to balance all elements of her life. And it's felt seamless. She's not had to explain why she was needing it and what. And she recently got a new line manager, and the first thing that the line manager said when they met was, tell me about your family, and reminding me that they should always be my top priority. And to ask for help and support whenever I've needed it. And this was very powerful, as her life can be erratic, and without this support, she could not have maintained the role that she has. She values the network, which is a great source of support, and she wouldn't want to work anywhere else. So I thought that was a nice quote to share. I'm just very briefly going to cover some of the best practice in the Crown Office Procurator Fiscal Service, which is, I find that awfully difficult to say, but there you go. They have newly revised their carers policy. They also have a carers register and what they call a workplace adjustment passport, which really means that carers can, if they get a new line manager or if they move to a new department, their needs are recorded on this register and on this passport. And they don't have to then go through you know, this story again to whoever their new manager is. Their needs are already recorded on their passport. They also have carer equality ambassadors. They've got a carers network and a Yammer community. They hold monthly carer tea breaks, and at their, I think, recent or last year's certainly equality conference, there was a carer stall. And one of the very powerful things that they did was, and I think this was probably around about Carers Week, they shared a whole series of carer stories, similar to what we were talking about earlier on, but really powerful stories. And I've not felt that I can sort of share these here today. Perhaps we'll get, you know, to hear of some of those at a later stage. But they are just people who have very, very, you know, sort of openly talked about their experiences as carers, and, you know, some of the difference that the support has made again. And I'm just sort of popping this wee quote in here that they, you know, the COPS recognises that all its employees are now working longer and to later retirement dates in an ageing society. And this means that they know that calls for caring from employees are likely to increase. And that's certainly going to be the same in every workplace, in every organisation, not just in Scotland, but across the world. So just some snapshots there of some of the kind of comms that have accompanied some of the work that's going on in the Crown Office service, and a few more quotes there about the difference that has made, again stating that the understanding is like gold dust. I'm so grateful to have joined a service that can accommodate my sometimes difficult home circumstances, the importance of flexible working, and the importance of having good colleagues who understand. And also, I thought this was nice that in reference to the introduction of the carers policy, that this person saying we just want a uniform approach for people with caring responsibilities. We don't want special treatment. All we ask is for an understanding of how our life is markedly different from others. So I'm going to leave the kind of employer bits like that. I'll share these slides later as well, but just very, very briefly, going back to Carers Rights Day, just if employers can think about reaching out to carers again and reinforcing your message of support, that's probably the best thing that you can do. Raise awareness, use the logo, tweet about it, connect to wider information and support, maybe get in touch with your local carers centre. And maybe, review some of the in-house support as well. I've put a link here to a few things, including the Carers Passport Scheme. There's a nice wee video on that website, which people might quite find helpful generally. We'll also send round a kind of guide of resources that we're just pulling together at the moment. I've got that on my desktop, but I'll not take up too much of this time. Some more resources there for employers to maybe make available to carers. And one of the things that Carers Scotland and Carers UK have done lately is they've produced some animated guides about caring that actually, if you just being able to make these available to carers could be very helpful. What I'm going to ask Christine and my team to do just now, I'll come out of this just now, but just to give you a wee example of this, and it's something that you might want to share with people in your organisations. There's a little video here on adult care support plans, carers assessments in Scotland. So we'll just show that briefly. But if you have a look at the website, there are a whole load of other animated guides that might be helpful as employers for you to pass on to carers. So I'll come out of this just now. We'll end with this, and then Andrew's going to talk to us. Okay, Christine, I'm out of that now.
Talk, one moment.
I mean, this might not work, obviously, given that it's a video on YouTube. These things often don't, or we might see it and not hear it, but here goes.
Let me know if it's not working properly.
Okay.
Taking care of someone can feel really daunting. There can be a lot to navigate, and you may feel left to cope alone. But there is help available. Arranging a carer's assessment can be an important step to gaining further support. In Scotland, this is known as an adult carer support plan. In Wales, this may be referred to as a carer's needs assessment. A carer's assessment looks at your needs as a carer, but it's in no way a test of your abilities. Simply put, it's a review of your caring situation to help identify if you need any extra help or support. You'll have the chance to talk about the care you provide and the impact it has on your life. Many people don't realise they can get further help. In fact, you have the right to request a carer's assessment if you appear to have support needs. Examples of support might be help with taking a break, help with ongoing costs such as taxi fares, or information and advice about local services. It's important to seek support for yourself, remembering that it will benefit the person who needs your support too. To request a carer's assessment, contact the social services team of the local council or local trust if you live in Northern Ireland. You could also try your local carers centre. There is no cost involved in having a carer's assessment. If you are found to have eligible needs, some local authorities or trusts may offer support free of charge. Others may follow up with a financial assessment to see if you or the person you're caring for may need to make a contribution towards any help offered. It may be useful to make a list of everything involved in your caring role and consider how it affects your day-to-day life, including work, social life, relationships, and your well-being. If you're not happy with the outcome, you can challenge the decision. Even if they can't arrange formal support at this time, the local authority or local trust has a legal duty to offer you information and advice to prevent your needs from escalating. You can also request another assessment in the future, as naturally, circumstances can change. If you'd like to find out more, there's lots more information and guidance on our website, carersuk.org, or you can email advice@carersuk.org. Whatever you're going through, we're always here to help.
Thanks, Christine. So yeah, that was a wee bit longer. Sorry to sort of if that was a wee bit long, but that's just one example of some of the animated videos that are on the website. If somebody in your organisation has just become new to caring, it's quite helpful to be able to show some of those. There are other ones that are, you know, an introduction to caring, and there are others about financial support and all sorts of other things. But anyway, it was just to let you see that. And I'm happy now to ask Andrew Warburton from Voices of Carers across Lothian to speak to you about the kind of support that carers centres can offer. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Sue. Everyone hear me okay? Good, thank you. So it's nice actually that video mentioned carer centres. It's a nice little segue into what I want to talk about today. So I'll just share my screen. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Oh, it's got a notes thing on it, hasn't it? We don't want that. I'm not too sure how to turn the notes section off.
We're not seeing them. Okay.
We're not seeing them, Andrew. We're just seeing the slide. It looks perfect.
Then that is perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, while we've got everyone together here, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about the sort of general support that you as employers could receive by engaging with your local carer centres. So I want to take you through some of the basics around this now, and I'm obviously happy to answer any questions as well, or attempt to. So the basic premise is there should be at least one carer centre in every local authority area across Scotland. There's a picture of Scotland there in case you don't know what Scotland looks like. So there's basically in each of the local authority areas you should be able to find a carer centre that will provide some degree of support. Now there will be different levels of support available in different areas. I'm speaking from Vocal. We've been set up here in Edinburgh since, well, for 30 years now. So we cover Edinburgh and Midlothian. We have a carer centre in both areas. So we've been going for a long time. So a lot of this, I'm going to talk you through a lot of the services that we offer here. And that will differ from place to place, but there is a basic premise of supporting carers at each carer centre. So many, as it says here, many will work with local employers, and there are a number of different ways that carer centres such as Vocal will work with local employers, and we'll walk you through some of those in a moment. But crucially, support to become carer positive is one of the things that carer centres can offer. There's a little link there. I believe we are going to share these slides later, so that link there will take you through to see what is available in your area. And we'll signpost you to various different carer centres that will cover different types of support. So a little about the area that we cover. So like I mentioned, Vocal covers Edinburgh and Midlothian. Our carer centres are in Leith, one in Dalkeith, both very reachable on public transport. For East Lothian and West Lothian, there are separate organisations. Obviously, with the proximity to ourselves, we work closely with them, but they have their own setups. So in East Lothian there, you've got a carer centre at the Community Hospital in Haddington, and Carers of West Lothian are based out there in Livingstone. So like I say, every area should have its own centre that you will be able to contact, and use that link that was on the previous screen to find out what's near you. With regards to Vocal, just to give you a taste of what we do, and this from an employer's perspective, this is, you know, if the benefits of signposting any staff that you have with caring responsibilities to a local service, this is the kind of thing that they could potentially access. So we work with over 10,000 carers across the region every year, and the support that we offer, everything we do is carer-led. Everything that we do is in response to need that we've seen. We undertake a carers survey every couple of years to make sure we are understanding the needs of carers and we're responding in the best way that we can. Our latest survey, biggest survey we've ever had actually in terms of respondents. So the results of that are being pulled together at the moment. We're going through a sort of workshopping working group kind of process at the moment, just to do a little deeper dive into those details to make sure we fully understand the results of the survey. But like I say, everything that we do is in response to the need that we see. So this could be information and advice and individual one-to-one support with carers. So we have carer support practitioners who will work directly, they each have a caseload and will work directly with carers. We have a very robust counselling service here, and so the emotional support that's required by people who are taking on caring roles, very, very important, and will be important for anyone who is looking to juggle their caring role alongside employment. We hold a huge amount of training and events as well. We have a full separate website, Carers Training, that covers all of the different courses and events that we offer. Now, these can be practical supports specific to different sort of caring roles, or they can be more sort of recreational and social events as well. Short break opportunities. So this is becoming a much higher profile issue. The fact that people with caring responsibilities often struggle to have a life outside of that caring role, and the ability to take short breaks, and it could be an afternoon tea, it could be a weekend away. There's a whole range of things that could be. But the importance of that is really key. So we offer those opportunities as well. Peer support, we have volunteers who either are currently unpaid carers, or they've had caring roles in the past and are keen to share their knowledge and expertise and guidance. And so, for example, if it's someone who is trying to make sure that they're able to stay in employment whilst having their caring role, we'll have peer mentors who will be able to support with exactly that, and offer guidance from their own experiences. We offer grants for short breaks and cost of living support, so sort of micro grants to help with those things. Support to plan for the future. So future planning is a big thing for us, and that offer is becoming a broader range of services. So that includes power of attorney and other legal support. We also have a free will writing service that we offer to carers now as well. And then in line with the video we've just seen, assistance to undertake adult carer support plans and emergency plans as well. We work with partners at a local and national level across the public, private and voluntary sector, and that will be to help shape strategy. And we do a lot of advocacy work for carers' rights. We work with the Coalition of Carers across Scotland. We work internationally. We're linked up with Euro Carers, and we're very keen to. We're not primarily a campaign and organisation, but we do a lot of work around carers, sort of advocacy. So yeah, it's a broad range of things that we offer. So in terms of our employer support, like I say, we've been going for 30 years now, and this has been a large part of what we do for a good amount of time. We are contracted to work with Edinburgh-based employers, and the support that we offer has grown over the years and is now a pretty robust package. So we work with HR and management teams. We look at what their needs are, and that can be, it's often around sort of looking at their policy, their HR policies, looking at how they put these things into practice, guiding them on what is sort of good examples, good practice that they can follow. We offer training packages, that's often for people at a management level, and that can be about sort of awareness, what unpaid caring is. It can be how to support unpaid carers. It can be how to help identify carers amongst your staff, and how to have open and sensitive conversations around this kind of stuff as well. We have both in-person and digital support for staff who are carers. That can be part of our sort of training programs that we've already mentioned, the sort of events that we set up for carers. But for some of our larger partnerships, it can involve kind of a surgery model, some one-to-one support, drop-in surgeries or booked appointments, those types of things as well, where we can actually have a place inside, on site at an employer to assist their staff with caring responsibilities directly. We support employers to help set up their internal carer networks. We've heard some great examples of where this has been a success today, and we could do a full presentation on the importance of internal carer networks, but this is something where we have a lot of experience, and we've got a network of people who've gone about this very successfully and can be called upon to offer guidance for others who are just in a more of a burgeoning stage with regards to that. Obviously, working with Vocal would mean you have access to all kinds of resources. We have online events that we hold. We have quarterly for our employers network, where we bring together all employers across Edinburgh. We have quarterly network meetings. We also hold events on Carers Week, and we have one coming up on Carers Rights Day as well. So if anyone's interested in that, there'll be a contact email at the end of this presentation, so you can always get in touch and come along to our Carers Rights Day event later in November. As I've just mentioned, we facilitate the Edinburgh Employers Network, which is a good, friendly, helpful bunch. There's always interesting things to discuss at our meetings. It's a good thing to get involved in, and hopefully, in your areas, if you're not in the Edinburgh Lothian areas, then there will be similar things set up where you are as well. And as mentioned before, we do support employers to achieve their Carer Positive accreditation. So the added value, just to kind of sum up what that would sort of look like, obviously it improves the engagement with carers in your workforce. This is all about it's from one angle, it's staff retention, but it's just the fact that everyone wants to support their staff to do a good job and to have a nice time when they're at work. It all adds to the experience of working with a good employer. So this is, if there are carer centres that offer this kind of service where you are, please do get involved, because it can add so much value. We part of these relationships that we have with employers, we're providing support that will really assist all of your workers to reconcile, to juggle those kind of caring commitments alongside their employment commitments. It's really invaluable stuff. As mentioned already, the access to all the tools and resources to help raise awareness within your organisation, to make sure that you are having those open and sensitive conversations with people who might be affected by unpaid caring in your organisation. All of that support to develop your policy and develop your internal carer networks, with changes in legislation happening, having a carer centre that you're able to work with and get guidance from is going to be invaluable. And then once again, evidence to support and strengthen your Carer Positive application. So there are all kinds of ways that you can, and like I say, different carer centres will work with employers in different ways. This is just one example of how we go about it, but you might find that there are different ways that will also add benefits where you are as well. So yes, that's sort of an overview, whistle stop of what it looks like. But here's our bespoke email address for specifically for employers, which is monitored by myself and my colleague Anne, who's also on this call here today. So if there's anything that you want to know, by all means, drop us a line, let us know, and we'd love to hear from you. That is me. So let me stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That's great, and hopefully that lets folks see just how valuable a support and resource their local carer centre could be, either working with them or at least signposting carers to that support if you don't have those links already. Does anyone have any questions for Andrew before we go into the discussion groups? And the discussion groups really are just to give you an opportunity in a sort of smaller group setting to have a chat with each other and to maybe ask some of the groups are going to have a mixture of kind of existing carer positive employers and maybe some employers who are newer to this. So I'm sure it gives a good opportunity to kind of ask some questions and learn a little bit more from each other, and by all means, raise any kind of questions that you might feel, even if they're, even if you don't think it's a great question, just sort of raise any issues or challenges that you might have. I'm just going to pop into the chat a few questions that are there as a sort of starter for 10, but don't feel that you've got to be restricted to these, and if it's more beneficial just to have a discussion, then please do that. But these were some of the ones that I thought might be useful to touch on, and it's partly touching on the legislation. Do you have carers leave already in place? Do you feel prepared for the new leave provision that's coming in, and what do you think the main challenges for that might be? But if you don't particularly want to talk about the legislation, you might want to have a discussion about Carers' Rights Day and whether your organisation has done anything in the past that's been good, or whether you've got anything planned. And if you'd like to share any examples of good support, or, you know, answer some questions from other organisations, please do that. But also it would be helpful for us to know what would help you most in developing future support, if there's anything that as support resources and organisations that we can do. It's really helpful for us to know from employers, you know, what would be the biggest help for you, so that we can help, you know, develop our support package as well. So I'll pop, oh, I thought I had popped those into the chat, but that's them just going in now. Christine is going to, there are 31 people here, so I think my colleague Christine's going to split us into 3 groups. And yep, okay, sorry, a few folk have to go, which is absolutely fine, but we're going to go into some groups, and I would say just 20 minutes just for a chat, and then we can come back, and we'll probably finish up a bit earlier given that we were a number of speakers down, but we can see what the discussion brings and what the kind of main points coming from those are.
Oh dear, cut off at the worst time. That was a good point. I think we'll maybe amplify that at some point during this. But yes, your local carer centre will be doing stuff for Carers' Rights Day. That's important to remember as well. Okay, that is all back. I hope those discussions were useful for people. I'll just sort of very briefly, and I'm not asking anyone I'm not putting anyone on the spot for formal feedback, but just one of the kind of key points from our discussion there was just this constant challenge of helping carers identify themselves and coming forward to, you know, to let their employers know that they're carers, and, you know, getting the right support, and also how to kind of keep things fresh in a sense. We were hearing about, okay, it's Carers' Rights Day again, but, you know, what other way, you know, what ways are there of engaging with carers to try to get them to either join carers networks, or to, you know, come forward and identify themselves and seek support. So, you know, it was useful to kind of hear that those, well, useful, but also it continues to be a kind of ongoing challenge, doesn't it? And I'm not sure anybody's fully cracked it yet, but I think, you know, the key message again is to kind of keep sharing carer stories, sharing different types of carer stories and different perspectives to let people kind of recognise their own situations, but other things as well. But I just wonder if anyone else wants to raise anything that came out particularly strongly in their wee discussion groups, or whether there's any particular support that you feel. One of the things we were keen to hear about was if there's anything that we should be focusing on in terms of supporting employers. Does anyone get anything they want to say? Okay. I think that's probably, I mean, that's 15 minutes before we're due to end, which I'm sure everyone will be delighted to claw back in their day. But if there's anything else at all that you want to add, either in the chat or by just having a more of a discussion here, please feel free to chip in. And I'll just, while I'm just sort of finishing off there, I'll just share with you very briefly one of the things that we're going to send round, and you can hopefully make this available to carers if you feel that that might be useful for them. We'll finish it off, but and it's a Word document that, yep.
That's it. It's just sharing some information and resources, and I've put a whole load of links in here, and it's just at the very least if it's something that might be helpful to carers or to, you know, to people either in the organisation or without, or out with the organisation. So it gives some links to some of the practical support, some of the fact sheets and guidance that we as Carers Scotland produce, including the link to those videos, but also some of the other organisations that are useful, like Care Information Scotland, and that would show you where your local carer centre is as well. There's a, you know, you just look at the local authority area and it lists all the local carer centres. Shared Care Scotland, the Coalition of Carers, Carers Trust, and MECOP are all other, you know, national carer organisations that might be useful sources of support as well. And just going back to what Andrew said, if you can access your local carer centre for support as well, you know, that can be a great wealth of information for carers. I'll come out of that. And oh, Geraldine, you've got your hand up. And you're on mute.
I'm so sorry, I didn't realise. I don't think I did actually, Sue. No, I didn't consciously.
Oh, did you not? Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I must have imagined it.
No, not guilty, not this time anyway.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, folks, unless anyone has got anything else to ask or say, I'll let you all away early, and we'll organise another session in the near future, and we'll maybe take some views on what might be best to focus on in that, and contact us at any time at all if there's anything else that might be useful for you as employers.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Sue. It's been really useful. It's been great just to, you know, be with other folk and just compare notes, as it were. So thanks everyone for a very informative session. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming along, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks to all the speakers.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.